I've just been informed that we are going off the air and switching over to the emergency broadcasting system.
Dude, everybody's dead, okay? Your mom's dead. Brother's dead. That fat chick at Dairy Queen, dead. That sucks too.
I've just been informed that we are going off the air and switching over to the emergency broadcasting system.
Dude, everybody's dead, okay? Your mom's dead. Brother's dead. That fat chick at Dairy Queen, dead. That sucks too.
Do you share common ground with the understanding that something in this world is just not right? Has your life become a journey of experiences, leaving you questioning reality? Well, you're not alone. At Axiom Curb Community, we share your thoughts and feelings. Joining our cause could be the next door to be open to you. Visit Axiom Curb to be part of the people's work in seeking truth control. Or go to axiomcurb.org. Your silence is someone's suffering. Together, the truth can be taught.
Good morning, everybody. How are we all doing? It's Sunday the 29th, I think, 29th of June 2014. Also Monday the 30th of June, GMT time, midnight. Welcome to the Axiom Curb Community Radio, and you're listening to PJ. I've got a show for you tonight. I'm going to be talking to you all about the Atvod that's come out this week. Most known to be released by UK Column, which have been in close contact with them via phone and other means necessary to bring us the latest information of Atvod's motives and agendas. But tonight I'm going to bring you roughly about an hour's worth of a covering section just clearly on Atvod, getting you up to speed with who they are, what they're doing, who works for them, things like that. So hope you've had a good week and a weekend and ready for the next week coming. So we're going to kick off now and get this show going. Atvod, censoring porn to keep itself in a job. A regulator that has just called for changes to UK law to stop children accessing pornography online is merely trying to justify its existence and make more money, says campaigner Jerry Barnett. Barnett, founder of Sex and Censorship, says he has seen the CEO at the media's regulator's helm, Peter Johnson, waged this battle for years. It is the same battle he adds that saw the British Board of Film Classifications, also known as the BBFC, private organisation Johnson used to work for, gain statutory powers to censor videos 30 years ago. This latest movie is yet another attempt of propagating a culture in the UK of banning pornography. What sees hardcore material banned from television to this day, Atvod is lobbying for laws that will empower them to stop them being irrelevant. Jerry Barnett, sex and censorship. I know Atvod very well, and it is first and foremost a money-making venture. Barnett told Wire.co.uk it's quite a clever setup that has tax rating powers to regulate video on demand, and they've decided to extend this definition of that far beyond the other European countries. Its job should be to look at TV on demand services like 4OD, but Atvod has decided to massively stretch the definition to cover any site with video on. It seems Atvod has been gradually edging the definition for several years, but in 2010 it was permitted to share with Ofcom the regulation of UK video on demand services, and was tasked with ensuring providers follow its editorial regulations. This includes ensuring providers make appropriate fee payment. Their powers come from the Section 368A of the Communications Act 2003, which defines a relevant service. Thus, its principal purpose is the provision of programmes, the form and content of which are comparable to the form and content of programmes normally included in television programme services, essentially understood as TV-like. In 2011, Ofcom had to overturn Atvod's decision to apply this to video clips on magazines, publishers' websites, and in 2013 rebuffed Atvod's attempt to charge BBC YouTube services and Channel Flip Media. But Atvod has one other main power to enforce breaches of its editorial regulations, which include hate speech and controls on content viewed under 18s. It is highly relevant, however, that there is not mention of adult content or pornography in the section of the Communications Act that gives Atvod these powers. That would point to material which might seriously impair the physical, mental and moral development of persons under the age of 18. Something most people would agree differs vastly according to an individual's age and experience. Atvod, however, wants to be able to stop all payments leaving the UK if the sites they are heading for do not employ age verification. So that was one of the articles from Wire.co.uk. A campaigner, Jerry Barnett, founder of Sex and Censorship, and that's what he had to say regarding Atvod. So what is it, guys? What's happening here? Is this a Mary Whitehouse in return? Is it going to be revamping the copyright laws and all the new things that are going to be drafted in shortly under a blindfold of, members of Parliament? So where do we go? Where are we heading? What about this show right now? Will they be drafting out an audio on demand regulation where pretty much anything you say, see or do or show is regulated? So it just opens your mind to the future possibilities. So we're going to continue now with the next part of the show tonight, Atvod Exposed Special.
Hi, my name is Chris Gosling and I run Small Scale TV, the only website fighting for internet TV programme makers. I've been out of action for nearly a couple of months for major cancer surgery, but I'm back from today, and just in time I think, because the consultation period for the 2011 fees to be charged to small online video providers is due to end at 5 p.m. on Friday the 1st of April. Now there's an appropriate date to end a consultation on something called Atvod. That's probably the UK's most unneeded, possibly ineffectual, and certainly most pointless Quango, which probably only survived last October's bonfire of the Quangos because no one in power had ever heard of it. If you've never heard of it and don't know what Atvod does, here are the basics. If you make small TV programs that you show online for any economic reason, that means to earn money from, even in the smallest way, Atvod think they have the right to charge you a registration fee. If you've made YouTube video that YouTube has found popular enough to give you income from, then Atvod think they have the right to charge you a registration fee. And that registration fee in 2010 was £2,900. In 2011 it could be £4,300. Although don't lose heart, you might qualify for the so-called concessionary rate. That'll be a minimum of £250 in 2011. This all stems from a simple bit of European legislation dating back to 2003, before anyone much knew anything much about internet video, before even YouTube existed. It called for very light regulation of online video, but a simple form of registration so that false claims could be deterred and the public interest protected. That seems very sensible and laudable. But Ofcom, Britain's communications regulator, with the connivance of the Department for Culture, Media and Sport, has managed to create from this something called the Association for Television on Demand, Atvod, which seems to have become the big broadcasters' enforcers, briefed to devise ways to put smaller operators either out of business or at least in a difficult corner and seriously out of pocket. Could this affect you? If you make online video which generates you an income, however small, yes it could. If you make online video which isn't intended to earn an income but eventually does, yes it could. If you make or have made video for other purposes which is later shown online and makes you an income, yes it could. Want to know more? Come back to this site tomorrow, Wednesday 23rd of March, to see our next video and learn more. And check out the back history on our website, that's www.smallscale.tv.
If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can do that at axiomcurb@live.com. That's axiomcurb@live.com. You can check out the website, axiomcurb.org. Click on the help button at the far right outside of the menu. You'll find volunteer on there. You can fill in the quick form, tell us what skills you've got, and you can get yourself a show. Quite easy, simple as easy as that, really. It's just a case of getting in touch. We'd love to hear from you. So tonight I've got a show which is just specifically to do with Atvod. I really wanted to cover this. I want to get the word out there, let people hear about this Atvod and who they are and so forth. So I've prepared for you a bit of material that I've come across throughout the week, starting with UK columns, discussion in the car with what they've had to experience so far from Atvod themselves. So I'm going to get onto playing that right about now.
Okay, hello and welcome to Not the UK Column News. It's Thursday the 20th. Well, actually, we're not allowed to say that. It's too television-like.
Too
television-like. Do you think we're allowed to discuss the weather, Brian?
I think it could be risky. Perhaps we can't comment on it because the television certainly does that. But maybe we could show people.
Well,
possible?
Feel free. Now, of course, we're not allowed to switch shots because that would be too television-like.
So this
Brian's
is by hand. Here we are.
Pick the camera up and show you the weather. It is wet and yucky and horrible.
The sky is pretty grim, as you can see. That's grey sky. But I won't say any more because, well, Atvod may pick us up for being television-like.
Yes, okay, good. You even managed to, right, fantastic, okay. Well, I mean, there is one advantage to this, Brian. We have shown the weather and we're not in the studio, so it's actually cooler.
It is
in the car, well, I'm not allowed really to ask you questions because that would be too television-like, and it might be considered a television interview.
Yeah. Can I just ask a question?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh no, you're not allowed to ask questions. That would be an interview.
Right. Okay. Well, this is just a one-off.
Oh, okay.
I just wondered that am I right in thinking that we've caused a problem? The BBC's got a budget of 3.65 billion, and then you can add on the extra bit of another billion for all of the 1.2 billion for all of the commercialised stuff. But we the UK column have been so television-like that we've caused a problem.
Yes. Seems like it.
Okay.
Because Atvod's phones don't seem to be working today.
No, I've heard that there's been a lot of calls going through to Atvod.
Yeah. And of course the other thing that we've got to do is to reduce our production values, because high production values are considered to be television-like.
Right.
So we have reduced our production values by coming into the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is not a studio, this is a car.
And yes, there's no green screen here. There's actually a steering wheel.
And a baby seat.
And there is a child seat, although for some reason Lou's not sitting in it.
Yeah.
Right, so anyway, let's move on. Okay, maybe we should discuss the chain of events which has led us to where we are.
Yeah, because we're talking about this with a bit of humour in a car, because that's what we've had to do, but we're discussing some very, very serious stuff. This is the start of the UK government regulating the internet in order to shut up people who are telling the truth in a television-like way.
In a television-like way,
Yeah.
allegedly. Now, Atvod originally contacted us in February, and they claimed at that point that we were required to advise them that we were running a video-on-demand service, whatever that means.
Yeah.
So that's what they told us, and they asked us to fill in a form and send it back to them, which we didn't do because we wanted to understand exactly what it was that we were filling in.
Yeah. Am I allowed to look at you, because it's a bit? Is this an interview?
Well, I think if you were looking
I'll
at
look at the camera.
Well, if you were looking
Okay.
at the camera too much, that might be too television-like. But anyway,
I'll just generally look out the window.
following that initial communication, I had a number of telephone conversations with Atvod, and this is really what they said to us. They said that the fact that the UK column is a not-for-profit association staffed by volunteers had no bearing on any determination that they would make. So they really were not saying that they were only regulating corporate entities, but anybody really. So the scope is as broad as you like, from a one-man band in their bedroom right up to the BBC.
Yeah.
The typical number of YouTube video views has no bearing on it whatsoever either. So I pointed out that according to YouTube at least, our daily video broadcasts had video on demand videos had maybe between 2,000 and 3,000 views each day.
Yeah.
So we didn't exactly have a large market share here, and as far as Atvod was concerned, that was irrelevant. So even the smallest producer is if they choose to produce a particular type of product,
Yeah.
comes under their remit.
So, well, it's really the truth that does the damage, isn't it, rather than the viewing figures?
I would say so.
Yeah. So.
Then, of course, we come to this issue of the fact that the UK column is not providing video on demand content, or was not providing video on demand content exclusively. That they made clear, or they seemed to make clear to me, was not going to save us from being required to register with them. Indeed, if you read the final determination that they make, which is doing the rounds of the internet at the moment, they state that the only thing they were interested in was the YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
So they completely ignored the fact that ukcolumn.org exists. They completely ignored the fact that there are written articles on that website. They completely ignored the fact that we produce a quarterly newspaper. And they have made a determination on the basis that video on demand was our primary action that we
Yeah.
take. And of course that is not and has never been the case. Now, some people have said that all it would have taken was for us to write to Atvod and make a representation to Atvod that in fact our video on demand content was not our primary purpose, and all this would have just gone away. But that is not what I understood from the conversations that I had with Atvod staff. Maybe, but perhaps that's just because I'm an idiot. I don't know.
Well, I'm going to suggest, Mike, that maybe it's because Atvod doesn't know what the rules are themselves.
Right, indeed. Atvod agreed. Absolutely, they agreed with me that they have no definition of what television-like is, and that any decisions about what constitutes a television-like program are completely arbitrary, completely made off the cuff by a group of people.
You're getting me worried now, because we're here. This could be, even though we're in a car in the rain, this could be television.
This could be television-like considered.
Yeah. Okay.
Now the next point was that the Atvod agreed that there had been up to this point no court challenge to what defines television-like, and therefore no rulings by the courts, and so they have not been challenged in what their arbitrary decisions actually entail.
Can I just add a bit there, which I think
absolutely.
might maybe help? Well, if I just come in on this, I've got Atvod's annual report 2012-13 in front of me. They're boasting about all the control work they're doing with pornography channels, because Atvod says that a key role is to protect children from online pornography. Surprisingly or not, 3 BBC appeals have all been upheld. And they go on to say here, the BBC Worldwide on Mediaset appeal was decided on the basis of information which had not been made available to Atvod at the time of its determination. Each case involved complex issues, and the appeals process plays an important part in clarifying both the scope of the regulations and the entity to which they apply in particular circumstances. Is this my imagination, Mike, or does this really say they're making up the rules as they go along?
Absolutely, that is my understanding of what's going on, yes.
The BBC is invited to sit into meetings with Atvod, so they help form the policy, and then surprise, surprise, the BBC appeals are all upheld.
Right.
But Atvod's independent.
Right. So getting back to our story then, to cut a long story short, we had various further communications with Atvod over since February until the present, and at the end of the day, they issued what they call an enforcement notice, because we were simply refusing to engage with them in any meaningful way, and that gave us until yesterday to ask them very nicely if we would be so kind as to, or if they would be so kind as to regulate us, and regulate our activities. Now, since we're not going to step into their world, we took the decision to take the videos down. So I just want to clarify that Atvod has not closed the YouTube channel. In order to avoid regulation by Atvod, we have decided to stop acting as a video on demand service, which is what they claim that we are doing. And we will then take a breather and look at what we might do in the future. But in the meantime, we'll continue with the live stream. And certainly I would imagine that our the other people that we work with, like Ian Crane, may find other places to put their programs.
But of course this potentially affects everybody who's producing material on the internet, because Atvod simply says we don't care how big or small you are, we're going to regulate you, and if you're putting material up in a television-like way, which they define what that definition is. So if anybody is out there starting to produce, that's the key word, if the material's produced in a television-like way, you are going to come under the control. So here we have the British government starting directly to regulate the internet in 2014.
Now, something that was very interesting, I thought, in a recent telephone conversation that a friend of ours had with the chief executive of Atvod, Peter Johnson, he admitted that their main sort of motivation is to regulate anybody perceived to be in competition with the mainstream media. Now, I think that's a fairly fascinating situation, because what we have on behind Atvod is many mainstream media bodies, and so it seems like we're in the situation where basically they are really there to stamp on anybody that make sure that they never get big enough to actually challenge the BBC or Channel 4 or any of these other companies.
So we should probably be flattered that the UK column has been selected to be an extremely television-like broadcast. Atvod statistics are that roughly 2% of the broadcasts are on demand,
Yes.
of which they're saying most of that on demand is actually provided by the BBC.
Right.
And so we are a tiny fraction of what remains, but we're so dangerous because we're telling the truth that we're going to be regulated. Well, we're not.
Right. Now, Atvod's terms of reference state that there must be a majority of independent members on the determination panel. So the determination panel has a mixture of people that are considered independent and people that are from the industry for whatever reason, and they're considered non-independent. But independent, there must be an independent majority. But if we look at who is considered independent, and let's just take one example, we've got the deputy chair, Nigel Walmsley, who's supposed to be an independent board member. And he has a career spanning decades in the mainstream media, including directorships Carlton Television, ITV3 Limited, ITV Trust, Daybreak Television on Digital Media Acquisition Company, UBC Media Group, Select TV Cable, GNC Media Investments, just to name a few. There are a whole host more. And what's more, at least one current media directorship is not included on the Atvod Register of Interests. So, I mean, this man is clearly not independent. And actually, when we asked Atvod, I mean, we spoke to Atvod on a number of occasions about the Register of Interests, and they don't seem to care.
Well, they absolutely don't care. And of course, if you have a look at what they consider to be a register of interest, it's a few bullet points. It's not actually a comprehensive list of interests signed by the person concerned, which is the way it's normally done around the police boards or local authority boards. So a very cavalier attitude to how they produce these things. And when we pointed out there were errors, there were omissions, Atvod simply not interested. A lot of arrogance, I think, particularly from Mr. Peter Johnson, the chief executive.
Now, the chairperson of the Authority for Television on Demand is a lady called Ruth Evans, and this woman is really godlike in her what she's capable of. So I just thought we would just sort of go through her CV, which is amazing. Right. Currently, aside from being chair for the Authority of Television on Demand, she is non-executive commissioner and chair of Remuneration Committee at the Independent Police Complaints Commission. She's also a director of Alacrity Entrepreneurship Foundation. She's also a consultant at SHM Partnership. She's also a non-executive director and chair of Remuneration Committee at the National Audit Office. She's also, up until January 12 then, she's also been involved in the government administration industry. Now, she's held a number of posts from 1999 to 2011. She was non-executive director of PhonePay Plus. She was member of Consumer Impact Panel Association of British Insurers.
This is all one lady.
Yes, she was a board member at ING Direct. She was chairman Bar Standards Board. She was member of Queen's Counsel Selection Panel. She was deputy chair Ofcom Consumer Panel. She was a lay member General Medical Council. She was a chairman Standards Committee GMC. She was a member of the Audit Commission Independent Complaints Panel. She was a non-executive director Nationwide Building Society. She was a member of Law Society Governance Review Group. She was a chair Independent Inquiry into Drug Testing at Work. She was a member of the Human Genetics Commission, non-executive director of Financial Ombudsman Service, non-executive director Liverpool Victoria Group, chairman Independent Inquiry into Paediatric Cardiac Services at Royal Brompton and Harefield Hospitals, member of Fabian Society's Commission on Taxation and Citizenship, member Independent Panel for Future Funding of the BBC, trustee the Money Advice Trust. She's been
independent.
Yes.
BBC.
Yes.
Yep, good.
Chief Executive National Consumer Council.
Yeah.
Chief Executive, Board Director and National Consumer Council Services Limited, which was a joint venture with Deloitte Touche. She's been chair of Standing Advisory Group on Consumers in the NHS. She's been member of Central Research and Development Committee of the NHS. She's been a member of the UK Roundtable on Sustainable Development. She's been a member of the Expert Panel on Sustainable Development. She's been a member of the NHS Charter Advisory Group. She's been a member of the DTI's Consumer First Award Scheme Panel. She's been a member of the DOH Advisory Board acting on complaints. She's been a board member, Prevention of Professional Abuse Network. She's been a member of the Committee of Management of UK Cochrane Centre. She's been a consultant at the Department of Health. She's been a chief executive at Warren One. She's been a deputy director of Mind. She's been a director at Maternity Alliance, and she, in fact, her first job straight out of Cambridge University was at a director level. How do you do
Liberty.
that?
I think she started off Liberty was the first one.
That's not on the CV that I have, but nonetheless.
Well, we've got that from other sources.
Yeah.
So straight into Liberty, and we know what Liberty was connected with in the past, which
Yes.
of course was the Paedophile Information Exchange and Paedophile Action for Liberty.
Yeah.
But so quite a woman,
Quite a
independent.
woman, totally independent.
Yeah,
Yes.
good.
Yes. Now, of course, Atvod says that the regulatory burden is really low. They say that they're there to make sure children don't get access to harmful materials.
Yeah.
They say that they're there to prevent hate speech. And they say that, in fact, if we were to be regulated by them, we could take part in a
Discussions.
panel of the regulated.
Right.
Yes, panel of the regulated to make our points. But of course, this so-called light regulation is the thin end of the wedge. Atvod says that they gain their mandate from a statutory instrument which amended the Communications Act 2003. Now that statutory instrument came about, it was made by the minister at the time as a result of a European Commission directive which was designed to make sure that broadcast television companies did not put programming on the internet which would not be suitable for broadcast networks. It was not intended at that time for censorship of the internet. Now I have this from somebody who's an expert on these issues.
Yeah.
So this is not me saying it. This is somebody else saying it. Atvod is absolutely working beyond their authority at the moment, and nobody is challenging them. So that's what really this is about, isn't it?
We are warning people in a very upfront way that this is unbelievably dangerous. You have these completely unaccountable people. None of them are independent. They're absolutely linked into the mainstream broadcasting circuit. They are meeting behind closed doors with no minutes, no transparency for the public in order to make judgments and decisions on who they're going to regulate. And they don't even know what their own rules are because, as I just said, I'll repeat it, each case with the BBC appeal, each case involved complex issues, and the appeal process plays an important role in clarifying both the scope of the regulations and the entity to which they apply in particular circumstances. So we can categorically state that Atvod, by its own admission, does not know what the scope of the regulations are they're trying to enforce. They do not know their own regulations, and they don't necessarily know what entity it should apply to. But they are very big on porn. It has to be said that they're boasting that they've made some very big fines against porn channels.
Well, if you look at the determinations they made over the last 2 or 3 years, it seems that they've spent most of their time watching online pornography.
But that, of course, is television, isn't it? Television-like programs, pornography, according to Atvod.
That's what they say.
Right. Well, if I just bring our... Oh, sorry, I was about to say viewers, but of course we're just here alone in a car. So here's a House of Lords document. Just bring that in front of the camera. And this was media convergence and its public policy impact. It was session 13, 5th of February 2013, House of Lords. And two key people were in front of the panel: Ruth Evans, that lady with a long list of attributes, and Peter Johnson. And Ruth Evans said that Peter was the expert and that she was the generalist, and that was how we play it. And then it says they're looking after vulnerable people, and Ruth Evans says that she's concerned about stuff that is legal but not permitted for children. But strangely enough, Peter Johnson was originally working with the British Board of Film Censors, where he was producing policy. And of course what we've seen from censorship of films is that the pornography allowed has got worse and worse, and now it would appear that Mr. Johnson has simply hopped across to Atvod to regulate it. He is paid somewhere between £100,000 a year and £102,000 a year. But don't worry about the money, because basically Atvod can create their own money by saying that you, any of you on the end of that camera, are a television-like program, and they can come along and fine you. So if they need to pay themselves more money, they simply need more little people to fine.
So
what can we say? Can we speak especially to audiences in former Eastern European countries who've known what massive government censorship is? Can we talk to our friends in Russia who will almost certainly know what massive government censorship is? Well, we can now tell you that as a result of Atvod, Atvod has now declared its intent to start the full censorship of anybody who dares to get in front of a camera on the internet and produce television-like programs.
So what do we want people to do?
Well, what we need people to do is, it's time to stick together. This is very, very serious. It doesn't matter whether it's UK Column or the People's Voice or the Community Press Group or anybody else who is out there trying to get the truth out over internet broadcasting. These people can come for all and any of us. So this is the time that we need to make the world population aware that this lying, deceitful British government under Cameron at the moment, but formerly of course Blair and Gordon Brown. Tony Blair, remember, was the man who put his friends in place to start Ofcom. This is the point at which the British government has declared it is so frightened of the truth that it's going to censor the internet. We need millions of people to start phoning, speak to Atvod, speak to Ofcom, speak to your MPs, speak to people at the bus stop, and start withdrawing your consent for what is blatant censorship of the British government.
Now, of course,
they could register.
That's true. Whether or not you are producing programming, lots of people have YouTube channels even when they're not producing their own programs. Now, of course, people may be in doubt about whether those YouTube channels actually are required to register with Atvod, maybe people should find out, because
well, I think we'd encourage people to inquire whether they should be registered under Atvod, because Atvod has a duty to respond to queries, to tell people whether they should be regulating you or not. And it will be interesting to see whether Atvod is going to cope with maybe 10,000 people a week. But of course we can't suggest that, because that would be like a television announcement. So I think what we're really saying is a couple of blokes sat in a car park in the rain. This is what life in Britain is going to be like under censorship from King Cameron, unless we, the British people, stand up to be counted and do something about it.
Now, obviously, this conversation is going to end in a second, because we're just going to get out of the car without saying goodbye or anything.
Well, we can't. No, we can't have credits.
But on the live stream after this video goes out, it's not a program.
Yeah.
It's a video. After this video goes out on the live stream, there's another very interesting video, and I just would like to encourage everybody to hang on for a couple of minutes after this whatever it is is shown, and please do watch the live stream.
And we'll just say, if you've noticed that Louise has disappeared, I think Atvod took her.
Something happened, and she was there 1 second and gone the next.
So it's obviously not live television. Thanks for joining us. Bye bye.
Well, you're not allowed.
Yeah, that was not the UK column news. We will be getting back to that on part 2 very shortly. In the meantime, if you'd like to send us an email with your questions at axiomcurb@live.com, we may be able to read a few of them out at the end of the show. If not, we will get them out on Facebook page for you. You can also go to our website, axiomcurb.org, have a little browse around on there, see what you find of interest. But basically, guys, this is for the people, by the people. If you'd like to have your own little talk show, or you've got some nice creative ideas there, what you think can draw people from all cultures and backgrounds together and try to accomplish some of these confusing things that are getting thrown at us on a daily basis, we very much would like to see you with us, so please do that. So we're going to continue now with the next part of our show, so I hope you're listening in.
What are you up to, Brian?
Morse message, Mike.
Why's that?
Well, I think we should get the message out, and it's obvious we're being attacked. We're not allowed to be TV-like, and therefore we're going to be wireless. I think that's what we need to do.
Yes. Now we've discovered quite a bit more about Atvod. Well, in fact, it's not that we've discovered in the last 24 hours, but actually we believe that this is part of a much bigger censorship agenda, and so I think we're going to talk a bit about that today. But the last 24 hours has been particularly interesting, hasn't it?
It's been very busy. A lot of people have produced some really good responses. We've seen videos produced. We know a lot of people called Atvod. Well, what did Atvod do? They switched off their call centre, or they put the recorded message on. So a lot of good stuff. We've had some fantastic videos produced, which shows what people can do when they're motivated. We've also had one or two people with a few gripes. Apparently we're not doing enough, which is a bit tricky.
I think it's not that we're not doing enough, it's that we're doing the wrong thing. So the way we've gone about this has been wrong, and really we should have fought this privately and using various forms of the law, and well, of course, if we did that, nobody would know about it.
Yeah. So we're going to stick by what we do best, which is we're going to make sure we publicise what's happening. The exposure is the key weapon, and we'll say to people who are pointing the law at us, we absolutely know what you're saying, and we agree with all the good work that's being done around common law in particular at the moment, but we don't think it's our job at the moment to divert from what we do best in order to get tied up in corrupt, fraudulent courts.
Indeed, and we'd just like to point out again, this is not an interview.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
And actually, we didn't announce the start of the program. What is this program?
Well, it's UK column wireless, I think it is
today.
Wireless, yeah.
Okay. And of course, we're not in the car. We are in the kitchen.
Well, I thought if I was transmitting, I should change location. It's very important.
Well, aside from that, if we were in the same place twice, we might be considered to be studio based, and therefore, yes.
So this is a kitchen. They do programs, of course, from kitchens. Does that make it a studio?
I think
the kitchen sense of the word.
Only if you're cooking.
Okay, well we're not.
No, we don't have a cooker anyway.
No.
Right. Of course, we have taken a stand on the issue of Atvod, but Atvod is only part of a larger pie of media regulation and particularly increasingly media censorship. This is an issue we have been discussing, well, I believe since 2012. This was February 2012 issue of the UK column, and as we were not allowed to put graphics up, we will show you a photocopy of the paper.
Yeah.
And we were actually the first news organisation to expose the links between the Leveson Inquiry and Common Purpose and the Media Standards Trust, and people are immediately going to be asking, I'm sure, what the connection is between Leveson and Atvod and so on. But I think what we're about to show is that there are direct links between this entire agenda, which is not just limited to the internet, but in fact all media discussion of events.
Yeah, there's a very big picture operating, Mike, isn't there? And we're going to say that we pushed out that there was this original connection. We're very pleased to say the Daily Mail first of all picked up on it, and then started eventually to run with an 11-12 page story. The Telegraph got involved, the Sun got involved, and as we're going to show in a minute, the mainstream press are still asking questions about what's going on.
Yes.
So have we started something? I think we did.
We hope so.
But this isn't just about Atvod. This is a tiny part of something much bigger and much more dangerous.
Yes. Now, before we get on to that as a whole, and I'm not asking this in an interview style, But can we just discuss this issue of independence? What is the definition, do you think, or in your mind, what is the definition of independence with regard to what is going, with regard to public service, and when you're taking part in these supposedly these boards that make policy? What is the definition of independence, do you think?
Well, you don't have any connections with the organisations that are part of the debate, or you're not so heavily connected into people within the sphere of debate that your opinion could be compromised.
Okay, but it's a bit of a difficult area, isn't it? Because of course they want to have people that they perceive as being qualified to actually make judgments on.
That's true.
Right. So do you have an opinion on this? How do you find people that actually are genuinely independent in that case?
Well, one of the things that comes into my mind is that if you've got people who are going to make judgment on what free press is, you should have a team of people who are genuinely independent members of the public, people from some of the houses behind us.
So perhaps you agree with me that it's really pretty arrogant to suggest that that there are no intelligent members of the public that can't make rational decisions on things. That in fact you need to have somebody with 30 years experience in the industry that you're talking about in order to make an independent judgment.
Yeah, it's a bit like having a banker in order to make judgment on banking regulation, because there's been fraud and corruption, isn't it?
Right.
We need another banker.
So yesterday I mentioned one independent member of the Atvod board. I just wanted to raise one more, and that's a guy called Robin Foster, and he was just appointed in May.
Yeah.
And he has replaced a lady called Julia Hornell. It looks like Horney. And bearing in mind Atvod's main activity, I thought that was quite ironic, but it was actually just misreading.
Good job it's wireless here, Mike, otherwise this could be a bit television-like.
Robin Foster then, independent board member of Atvod, appointed in May 2014, founding member of Communications Chambers, which is a group of independent experts in media and telecommunications, including senior level advice on policy. But before that he was a partner for strategy at Ofcom, and before that he was a director of strategy at the BBC, and before that he was controller of corporate strategy at the BBC. Well, strangely his CV seems to have about 10 years missing between that and coming out of Cambridge University, but you've got to ask, how is this person independent?
Yeah.
And this is the same question that we're going to ask in a second when we start discussing Levison, of course.
Yeah, well, we know that so far everything that's come out of Atvod, and you're seeing it across other boards, these people are all selected, they're all appointed.
Right, but there's more, right? Because Robin Foster also serves on the Ofcom Spectrum Advisory Board, OSAB as it's called. Now this is not an Ofcom board, it's an independent board, in inverted commas, which reports to Ofcom on how to divvy up the electromagnetic spectrum. This is an independent board advising Ofcom. So let's have a look at that. Aside from Robin Foster, who we've already established is not independent because he worked for the BBC for quite a long time and in fact worked for Ofcom itself, we've got David Hendon, who is a member of the Smart Meters Strategic Programme Board. So of course there's no agenda there, because smart meters, they don't use the electromagnetic spectrum at all, do they? So there's absolutely no conflict of interest. He was also on the Department of Energy and Climate Change. So that was at the, apologize, that was at the Department of Energy and Climate Change. He was also a director of the Department of Business, Innovation and Skills. So this is a government man, right? Dr. Robert Pepper leads Cisco Global Technology Policy. This is the company which is driving the Internet of Things. So there's no conflict of interest there either in how the electromagnetic spectrum is divvied up. Jean-Jacques Sahel, Director of Policy at Skype/Microsoft, so no conflict of interest there. He's an ex-chairman of OECD Working Party on the Information Economy, and he was the UK signatory to the United Nations ITU Convention and Constitution, and that was the international telecommunication. We're looking at global governance here of the electromagnetic spectrum. And then we've got Gavin Young, Head of Strategy and Planning within Cable and Wireless, so no conflict of interest there. And Mike Walker, who is Group Research and Development Director at Vodafone Group of Companies, so no conflict of interest there either. So we've got a range of completely independent people advising Ofcom on how to divide up the electromagnetic spectrum, and Robin Foster is part and parcel of that group, also completely independent.
Yeah, brilliant.
So you know, I'm struggling to find a definition for independent which fits this picture.
Yeah, and in the middle of this lot, we've got Atvod. Should we bring in the Media Standards Trust?
Sure.
That'd be a good
Yes.
place to go.
So that's an interesting little report, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is the Media Standards Trust. Now, do you want to give us a bit of background on what that is?
Well, basically, this is having a look at...
No, the Media Standards Trust itself, I mean.
Oh, right, okay. It's a good job we're not live, isn't it? Because
Yes.
I'd have really messed that up. What we've got is the Media Standards Trust. We just have a little read through the board. It says it's governed by a board comprising respected figures from civil society and the media, and it meets 4 times a year to decide on the overall strategy. And we've got Mary Ellen Barker, a journalist. We've got Sir David Bell.
There's Sir David Bell, if anybody wants to be reminded what Sir David Bell looks like. And he
Well, he was Chair of Trustees Common Purpose, but also formerly Chairman of the Financial Times, and of course Pearson Group, which was the company well in behind the setting up of the Media Standards Trust in the first place.
And just in case anybody doesn't remember what Julia Middleton looks like, there she is.
Yes, thank you, Mike.
Yes.
So we've got Sir David Bell, we've got Sir Cyril Chatler, Chairman of the King's Fund, and if people don't know what the King's Fund is about, look it up. We've got Geraint Talfan Davies, Chair of the Institute of Welsh Affairs, Will Davies, Research Fellow in Governance, and he's with the Side Business School, University of Oxford. Remember that the good old Side Business School had money from a gentleman, I believe, had been involved in international arms deals. Roger Grief, Films of Record, Baroness Helena Kennedy, lawyer, writer, broadcaster, principal of Mansfield College, Oxford. David Lyon, Developing World Correspondence, BBC. Charles Manby, Goldman Sachs. Julia Middleton, Common Purpose. The Right Reverend Stephen Platten, Bishop of Wakefield. Sir Anthony Saltz, Executive Vice Chairman, NM Rothschild, and also a member of the Scott Trust, which put money into the Media Standards Trust.
And the Guardian, of course.
And the Guardian. Albert Scardino, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist. Anthony Smith, broadcaster. Sue Stapley Consulting. She's obviously a very special lady. And Sir Robert Worcester, who just happens to be the founder of Murray Poll. And I think if you look in the front of that, we find, surprise, surprise.
So this is a Media Standards Trust report, and it's entitled "Can Independent Self-Regulation Keep Standards High and Preserve Press Freedom?" Now, of course, as you would imagine, there was no conflict of interest on any of the people on the board of the Leveson inquiry, because David Bell wasn't on it. And David Bell wasn't anything to do with the Media Standards Trust, nor was he anything to do with Common Purpose.
You are being sarcastic here, Mike.
Would I? Anyway,
Right.
so this is an interesting little report, because what they're talking about is the independent custodian of the code.
Right.
Was that something to do with what you were doing earlier?
Well, I hope not.
Acting on behalf of the public in the public interest, the independent arbiter, the first port of call, become a membership organisation. A range of available remedies and for breaches of the code, independence of the industry, and so on. But what is fascinating in this little report is that, of course, they are holding Atvod up as being a standard to which they should apply.
So we've got Common Purpose with Sir David Bell and Julia Middleton, who helped found the Media Standards Trust. Let me just get this in my head. The Media Standards Trust then drives all of the background agenda to get Leveson.
They started the Hacked Off campaign, they pushed that whole Hacked
Yeah.
Off campaign, they drove the Leveson inquiry.
Right, and then in the background we got the same Media Standards Trust with Anthony Saltz, the NM Rothschild man, who's actually part of the report you've got in your hand. They just happen to be the people that are now pushing Atvod forward as a...
Yes, and let's not
Right.
forget that David Bell, this man, David Bell, who set up the Media Standards Trust, resigned from the Media Standards Trust just prior to the Leveson inquiry, and that made him independent.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, let's just remember that. So
Media Standards Trust is saying that Atvod is a very good organisation and we need it.
yes.
What can you tell us on that then?
Well, they say that Atvod enforces a code of conduct under an independent chairman. It has been deemed successful by Ofcom. They say that Atvod's objectives are primarily to, quote, regulate the conduct of its members in relation to their provision of television on demand. So you notice it doesn't say video on demand services, it doesn't say YouTube services, it says television on demand services, so as to ensure television on demand providers are committed to delivering a broad range of high quality consumer services. It says, quote, develop and keep under constant review a code of practice containing standards and core principles. So they have to develop that and they have to keep it under review. So it's developing,
uncertain.
uncertain. So that's reinforced here. And this clearly is a way of doing things that the Media Standards Trust thinks is a good way of doing things, because obviously it will change over time.
Yeah.
And they say that Atvod's constitution empowers the directors to pass rules or bylaws governing the terms of membership. So once you are a member of Atvod, at any point subsequent to that, the board of directors can decide just to change the terms and conditions of your membership. And of course, you could choose to leave, but in that case, what happens then?
Well, presumably they come out and point a finger at you and say we're going to regulate you anyway. I would guess.
Yes. So there is no basis in law for this. Is the main point here.
Yeah.
There is no basis in law for any of this, or for any changes in the criteria that are applied, in any changes in who the criteria are applied to, and so on.
Yeah.
But Media Standards Trust believe that Atvod is the beacon of how this should be done, and of course they're disappointed at the minute that Leveson hasn't turned out quite how they hoped it would, but nonetheless they're still campaigning for this.
Okay. If I can just steal one of these early ones here. I just found it interesting, the acknowledgement, this is them praising themselves. The Media Standards Trust would like to thank those who've assisted the drafting of the document. The Press Complaints Commission took great care to explain its work to the Media Standards Trust. Now we know the Media Standards Trust was absolutely attacking the Press Complaints Commission in a vicious way in order to get Leveson in. Sir Robert Worcester and the team at Ipsos Mori helped design the opinion poll research. Well, they would, wouldn't they? Because they're part of Media Standards Trust.
But they're independent.
Yeah. And then the chairman, Anthony Saltz, provided tireless scrutiny and encouragement. Well, that's when he wasn't driving the international banking scene through the Rothschilds. But the work would not have been possible without the support of the Trust core funders, notably the Pearson Foundation, which just happens...
Sorry, is that David Bell's Pearson Foundation?
Well, it's the very same group of companies and their foundation, yeah. So the same foundation...
So that's independent.
Yeah. And then Esme Fairbairn Foundation, which we'll come back to, the Joseph Rowntree Charitable Trust, and the Gatsby Foundation.
That's the Great Gatsby?
Yeah, the Great Gatsby. So, what's the significance of this? Well, we need to come over here to a Daily Mail article.
We're sorry we're not allowed to produce graphics. We've already explained why that is.
Wireless. So we printed out part of the headline. This chilling new assault on free speech. For years a noble British charity fought the freedom of expression around the world. Now it's being undermined by press-hating zealots of Hacked Off. Hacked Off being created by the Media Standards Trust.
Yes.
So what were they talking about? They were talking about a British charity called Index on Censorship. Suddenly it's had all of its funding pulled, £400,000, and they've got trouble surviving now, reporting on where freedom of speech has been shut off around the world.
But that situation, when was that report?
This article,
yes.
It was the 19th of June.
Right, because of course Index on Censorship now has none other than Hugh Grant as one of its trustees.
Yeah, Hugh Grant, I think, was one of the big supporters of the Hacked Off campaign.
Yes.
And he was one of the key witnesses at Leveson.
Indeed.
So he's now come into a charity that was doing a really good job pointing out where freedom of speech was being suppressed, and all of a sudden funding's been withdrawn.
Yes.
So where was the funding coming from? Well, the funding just happened to be coming from the Esme Fairbairn Foundation.
Yes.
And what the Daily Mail article points out here is that Esme Fairbairn has a portfolio of investments worth 827 million.
Yes.
So nearly £1 billion in the hands of a group of people. I don't know who these people are, but they can come in and get involved in the process to influence what's going to happen with the press.
But it's independent money, Brian. You don't need to worry about it because it's independent money.
Do you reckon any of their portfolio will be connected with the Rothschild banking interest?
Couldn't possibly be, because it's all independent money.
Right.
I mean, look, we've got Esme Fairbairn Foundation, we've got Joseph Rowntree Trust. It's amazing that these are all trusts and foundations. We've got Open Society Foundation, we've got the Pearson Foundation, and many others can you think of? Thousands.
Yeah.
All this money sloshing around, which is going to good causes, is going to charities.
Yeah.
And we've made this point before. 40,000 charities or whatever it is in this country. You would think nobody would be in need.
Yeah.
Because obviously charities are there to help people that are in need. So
well, they were till Tony Blair got them, and then he created the third sector, and the idea was to use charities in order to put policy through.
Right.
And part of that policy, of course, is clamp down freedom of the press.
Right.
So I just read a little bit here. In 2005, Sir David and Common Purpose founder Julia Middleton, an author and leadership expert, established the Media Standards Trust, an independent registered charity that fosters high standards in news on behalf of the public.
Who said this?
They did.
Right.
Which was based at the Common Purpose offices.
Mm.
Sir David Bell was MST's first chairman. That year, the Esme Fairbairn Foundation gave the fledgling organisation 70 grand.
Right.
Among the Media Standards Trust trustees was Albert Scardino, husband of Sir David's boss at Pearson.
So that's not incestuous at all.
Pretty much so, yeah.
Mm.
But she's also one of the people apparently favourite to become chair of the BBC Trust. And then basically they're tied in with the MacArthur Foundation.
Another one.
Yeah. And Esme Fairbairn gave the Media Standards Trust 150 grand in 2009. So, as you say, pretty incestuous, but don't worry because it's independent.
It's independent.
Yeah.
And I think that's really the theme here.
Well, I think we got to say that if people just think what we are witnessing at the moment is Atvod coming to take out the UK column because they don't like us. Could it be because we're the very people that exposed Common Purpose and Leveson?
Well, that's
this
quite,
is much bigger.
Yes, that's quite possible. This is much bigger. It is. You look at this rat's nest of independent advisors and the organisations and foundations that they're working with, and you find them in every single censorship agenda that is being pushed forward in this country at the moment. And this is not a conspiracy. It's fact.
Or a criminal conspiracy.
It is criminal in
Yeah.
its intent, and completely unconstitutional.
Right. So we'd like to say something to the people out there on the other end of the wireless, and that is that the key to dealing with what's going on is exposure of what the system really is. And if we're going to be a little bit crunchy and we say we're getting a lot of advice at the moment as to what we should do this, we should do that, and a key part of that is what these people are doing is against the law. Well, we know that. We also know the courts are corrupt, and that's why we've got the UK column, because we're trying to tell people. So if people want to challenge this by going through common law, which we'd support, we need you to do it, because we've got enough on our plate at the moment reporting that many people need to wake up, because the moment free media is closed down, what we're going to see is the secret arrests spiralling. Remember, reported in the mainstream media to date, 600 people arrested in secret by the new crime body, mothers being arrested and sectioned and forcibly drugged to stop them exposing paedophile rings, people dying in police stations. This is the reality of life in Britain today, and that's why we need free press and media. So I think we're going to say UK column flat out at the moment, getting the truth out about what's happening. We're giving you the ammunition. Am I allowed to say ammunition, Mike?
It's not. It's not a television-like term, so no. I don't see any problem with it.
Well, this is a wireless word. We're giving you the ammunition to really take the lid off and expose these people. What we don't need is people coming back to us and saying, well, UK column, what you need to do is this and that. We need your help. You need our help. If we all work together, we can deal with what's starting to happen. But critical, this is a massive octopus strangling free speech on the internet, but it'll come to TV, it'll come to wireless.
Yeah. So tonight at 6 p.m. on the live stream, ukcolumn.org/live, there is an issue, maybe?
Yes.
A version.
Yes.
We're not allowed to say episode of Doomwatch.
Yeah.
It's going to be very interesting indeed. Please join us for that, 6 o'clock until 8 o'clock tonight.
Good.
Yes.
And I'll add, thank you very much to all the people that have been pushing the wireless episodes around the car, the men in the car. That is starting to move. We're fascinated to see the response from the American audience, because Americans just do not understand that Britain is much closer to a police state than America, even though we don't have the guns, perhaps because we don't have the guns. But I'm using that word in a kitchen sense, Mike, so...
Yeah. Now, I'm sitting here wondering how we end this, because of course we are not in a studio.
No.
And therefore I actually have to get up
and
switch the camera off.
While you're doing that, I'll just say many people will not have believed this was a radio. They think it's something to do with dog biscuits. But I'm just going to show you that if I can hold this up to camera, I assure you that this is the real thing.
Do you have an Ofcom license to operate that?
Oh my goodness. It's below 10 watts.
Okay.
I'll leave you to switch the camera off.
Okay.
Have you ever come across this kind of error while surfing on the internet? It may be that the web page you're trying to access has been censored. Contrary to popular belief, the internet is not as free and open as one might think. All of our activity on the internet passes through the hands of private corporations, and they decide what you can say or see on the internet. In China, for example, the government actively instructs internet service providers and their content hosts to police their services. They even go as far as handing out internet self-discipline awards to companies that contribute the most to a harmonious and healthy internet development.
And this is a ceremony I attended in 2009 where the top 20 websites in China received what's called the Self-Discipline Award. And Robin Li, the CEO of Baidu, was one of those recipients. And so this is one of the features of Chinese internet censorship and surveillance, that it's actually carried out primarily by private sector companies, and that the companies that run China's internet services and platforms are acting as an extension of state power.
It may not surprise you that this kind of censorship takes place in authoritarian regimes, but similar kinds of censorship can also occur in Western democracies.
For many, it began with China. That was the most public example. That was the place where the companies had been named and shamed and otherwise publicly taken to task. But very quickly, folks realized that it wasn't just China, that it was countries around the world. And in fact, as we've seen in the Open Net Initiative research, it's dozens of countries where state-sponsored internet censorship is happening. And it's not just authoritarian regimes, but it's in fact democratic Western regimes.
Internet service providers around the world receive many requests from Western governments to block or remove content. In 2010, Google started releasing data about the requests they receive and how often they comply.
One of the great challenges that we all face in this space is the total lack of transparency as to what governments are requesting of companies, how companies are responding. And much to its credit, Google has released information about the government requests it receives for takedowns and made that public on a country-by-country basis, not quite in real time, but in fairly real time. And that's a really remarkable step in giving us all a window into the challenges that particular companies are faced to address with the requests they get from governments.
We're talking about corporations that serve as intermediaries, platforms for information flow between people and among people. And they may find themselves in a position where they are pressured or asked or demanded that they not permit certain information flows to take place. The idea would be, look, we're just a company. If a government asks us to do something and we're on their turf, we usually have no choice but to go ahead and censor.
ISPs often remove or block content when governments ask, but they also do it without prompting or coercion. There are many examples of how private companies control the flow of information on their platforms, be it for legal, ethical, economic, or other reasons. Shortly after the so-called slut walks against male chauvinism in Brazil, it was reported that Facebook had removed pictures of the protest including bare-chested women. These images have since been deleted by Facebook for violating the Declaration of Rights and Responsibilities, as outlined by the online service. Flickr as well was caught removing content. In early 2011, Hossam El-Hamalawi discovered that Flickr deleted his uploaded photos of police officers from Egypt's state security force. He later learned that this happened because the pictures were taken by someone else, a violation of the site's community rules. Apple is also known for the severe control they exercise over their App Store. At its launch in 2008, Steve Jobs announced that the platform isn't open to every app, for a variety of reasons.
Will there be limitations? Of course. There are going to be some apps that we're not going to distribute.
The ambiguous unforeseen, in particular, gives Apple a free hand to filter as they see fit.
Somebody came up with a baby shaking game on the iPhone and offered it up in the store, and then a bunch of people said shaken baby syndrome is a serious problem. Apple, do the right thing, get rid of it. And Apple got rid of it. And I think that can be pretty dangerous, because now you've got highly risk-averse companies, like on the margin, what do they need this kind of pressure for? And they'll get rid of not just Shaken Baby, but as happened with Apple, they got rid of an app that was simply a countdown to the end of George W. Bush's presidential term. That's all it was a timer called Freedom Time, to counting down to the end of an era, and instead of era. They didn't allow the app because they don't want to get in the crossfire, and that's dangerous for a healthy society.
In short, people often look at the internet as a free and open public space. The reality, however, is that the vast majority of online space is privately owned. Online, people are limited to what internet service providers and content hosts allow them to do and see. Sometimes they restrict content because of government pressure, but sometimes they do it on their own initiative. We need to be aware that censorship is not just something that happens in authoritarian regimes, but actually occurs all over the world. So be aware, you can't always stop these practices, but if you can't reach the content you're looking for, you can report it to herdict.org to help make censorship more transparent. For more information about these kinds of censorship, visit the Berkman website.
share common ground with the understanding that something in this world is just not right? Has your life become a journey of experiences, leaving you questioning reality? Well, you're not alone. At Axiom Curb Community, we share your thoughts and feelings. Joining our cause could be the next door to be open to you. Visit Axiom Curb to be part of the people's work in seeking truth control, or go to axiomcurb.org. Your silence is someone's suffering. Together, the truth can be taught.
Yeah, we've reached halfway through the show. I'd like to make this next part to the voice choice section of the show, where this week's selection is Cips Clips. He's going to be telling us his thoughts on Atvod. And don't forget, if you want to be on next week's episode, you can send your email to axiomcurb@live.com and somebody will get back to you there. So coming up now is Cips Clips.
Alrighty YouTube, another one of Cips Clips. So just wanted to make a quick clip. As I always say, and it goes on for about an hour, but hopefully I do need to go out and do stuff, so I will keep this short and sweet. But I just want to speculate and talk about what I'm thinking about with this UK column thing. Obviously yesterday a lot of us were aware that the UK columns videos were pulled. Well, today, in hindsight and reflection, the UK column took their own videos down to prevent them from being regulated because they were producing TV-like content. Very much a grey area. I would argue maybe it was Atvod trying to create a precedent moving forward to regulate all content on the internet that falls under the disguise of video on demand. This video will be on demand. It's available live. It's not produced in any fashion other than it's me sitting here sharing my feelings. So Atvod, fuck off. You can threaten me like you threatened the UK column. Unlike the UK column, I will not just fold. And again, I'm not here to say things that people want to hear. I'm here to say what I see, and that's all I can say. Now, I like the UK column. It's a good source of information. I suppose people could speculate on why they're doing what they're doing. The agendas that tend to be at the very top of their sheet, the things they talk about that are top of their agenda, such as frack and so on and so forth. The UK column uses Patrick Henningsy, by all accounts, very good researcher and stuff, and full of information. First time I ever came across that dude, Alex Jones Show, UK column. Also had some association with the Alex Jones Show. They've also had an association with Pete Santilli, who, not through my own research or digging about, but by a barrage, an absolute barrage of people who have nothing to gain other than imparting what they think to me. Absolute barrage pointing out Pete Santilli as being one of the biggest shills out there. I think he was associated with, is it Louisa, the lady from the UK column. Now, firstly, I don't know, again, I'm saying things here that people won't like, but I don't care. This is the sort of stuff I speak to people in confidence about. Not a lot of people have got the balls to actually stand up and say what they're seeing because they're scared of the backlash. Well, all I can do is say what I'm seeing. First article I would like to bring up. Now, I've been saying this from day one about the anti-fracking movement. And again, I need to qualify this, and so that people don't get caught up in the bullshit, I am not an advocate or fan of fracking. Right? Full fucking stop. I don't want fracking happening. It's untested and could possibly be causing a lot of harm. That aside, from very early on, and I've had the courage to say this from very early on, when it was the time when I was talking about World War III is happening. I've then went on to refine that language to, I believe it's a corporate war. Look what's happening in Ukraine, Gazprom, and then the Western oil cabals. There's obviously friction there. From very, very, very early on, when the fracking stuff started getting pushed out on media, so on and so forth. I think I was the only one that stood up. The only one I know that stood up and said, "Well, hold on a second. There are corporations, entities out there that have a vested interest in not allowing fracking to happen." Now, again, I need to clarify, I am not a fan of fracking, because I know I'll get a lot of criticism going, "Oh, you're a fan of fracking." I hate Gazprom, I hate the Rush, I hate all these dickheads who think they're above us. I'm trying not to be led down a merry path by anybody, and all I can do is say what I see, and hopefully maybe make others think. So this guy, Rasmussen, NATO, Jesus, what is he? NATO chief, I think he's. Russia is secretly working with environmental groups campaigning against fracking in an attempt to maintain Europe's dependence on energy imports from Moscow. The Secretary General of NATO said. He's the Secretary General. Now, propaganda doesn't have to be lies. Propaganda can be true. It can be creating narratives, so on and so forth. From very early on, I was the only person that I'm aware of that stood up and said, "Well, hold on a sec. Russia would have a very big incentive. The Russian Federation, Gazprom, would have a very big incentive to protest fracking going on in the UK." Again, I need to qualify, I am not a fan of fracking. I'm just saying what I see here. I'm not just fucking diving in and jumping, "Oh, and I'm in a camp. Look, there's somebody I like saying something that I'm not sure of. I'm going to join him." I like to scratch beneath the surface, or the surface, whatever you say, and try and find out what's really going on. Now, I surmise that what this guy... Now, go and read this full article and you'll see that basically he's standing up there in front of the EU and saying that NATO need to increase... Sorry, he's standing there in front of the NATO saying that they need to increase their defence spending. All part of the greater corporate global war that's going on just now. It's an argument about energy pipes and who's going to deliver it and who's going to profit from it. Ultimately, these are corporate whores fighting over the human resources and the resources of this planet. I hate both fucking camps, okay? I'm not a fan of any of them. They're scumbags, they're leading you down a merry path. Now, again, I'm just putting out ideas here. This is just my thinking at the moment. So, imagine there is an element of truth to this. I would imagine the UK government, the UK intelligence agencies, MI5, MI6, would possibly have information on this, where it would be Russian sleeping agents in the UK that just pop up with lots of money to fund a lot of these perceived environmental groups to go out and protest fracking. Now, I speak to a lot of people who do go and protest fracking, and in fact, everybody I've spoke to that does protest fracking in my opinion, are very genuine, concerned people who don't like fracking and they want it to stop. So absolutely get courage in their convictions and doing what is right. But at the very top, at the very, 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 very top, who the hell's calling the strings? Who is providing the financial support, the information, so on and so forth? Now, it wasn't too long ago, Press TV was pulled from the US, the UK, Europe and beyond because of the content they were putting out, very much anti-Zionist and anti-current establishment. So the European, the EU, the US and the UK authorities managed to shut it down. A load of bullshit what they said. It was all lies and conjecture and stuff, but ultimately they had the power to shut them down. Because why? The Press TV was doing damage to the state and the people in power and the authorities. Now the UK column, let me just, yeah, so you will be able to get the UK column live, by the way, on live stream. I just watched I did miss the first 5 minutes, but I did watch the other parts of it. So for the time being, it appears that the UK column is moved over on to live stream. So there's Ian Crane. Now this is a guy I'm wanting to dive into. And again, I am not making any statements here. I'm asking questions that have came up to me when I'm getting presented with people saying, "Oh, the UK column or shells, look at Ian Crane," so on and so forth. And because I don't blindly follow them, I went and checked a few things myself. And all I can do is say what I see and show you what I've found, and let you come to your own conclusions. So you have the Secretary General of NATO coming out and saying that Russia are funding environmental groups. Now, do these environmental groups realise that the money and the funding and the orders are more or less coming from Russia? I would argue not only at the very, 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 very top. And even then, it might only be one person who knows where the actual money's coming from, if indeed that is the case. The UK, EU and American governments have forum with pulling, let's say, unfriendly foreign propaganda from the airwaves. And now we have a perceived attempt to regulate the UK column. Now the UK column they weren't instructed to. The YouTube channel wasn't shut down. They done it off their own back. What I've heard voiced to myself by a few people who shall remain nameless, because who knows if they want to stick their name behind these statements. But a few folk have voiced up the concern: are the UK column leading people down? Leading people down a road? Are they allowing people to make up their own minds, or are they trying to create a narrative? Well, I'm going to have to continue this later because I'm busy and I need to go. So thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks to everybody in the chat. I'm going to continue this later and expand on it. Alright to YouTube, so thanks for listening.
Do you share common ground with the understanding that something in this world is just not right? Has your life become a journey of experiences, leaving you questioning reality? Well, you're not alone. At Axiom Curb Community, we share your thoughts and feelings. Joining our cause could be the next door to be open to you. Visit Axiom Curb to be part of the people's work in seeking truth control. Or go to axiomcurb.org. Your silence is someone's suffering. Together, the truth can be taught.
Yeah, so that's it, guys. We've reached the end of the show today. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you've learnt something of worthwhile, and you can put that into practice in whatever you're doing that, you know, can bring about a change for everyone in humanity. Thanks for tuning in, and you've been listening to Axiom Cape Radio, caster.fm. Monday with more information regarding Atvod, along with another episode. I'm not too sure what the lineup is just yet, but I'll keep you posted on the Facebook page, Axiom Cape Community. If you've not already liked that, you might feel interested in checking it out sometime. But until next week, guys, I'll catch you around. You've been listening to Axiom Cape Radio at caster.fm.
I've just been informed that we are going off the air and switching over to the emergency broadcasting system.
Dude, everybody's dead, okay? Your mom's dead. Brother's dead. That fat chick at Dairy Queen. Dead. That sucks too.
Just been informed that we are going off the air and switching over to the emergency broadcasting system.
Dude, everybody's dead, okay? Your mom's dead. Brother's dead. That fat chick at Dairy Queen. Dead. That sucks too.